Hey there guys, how are you doing? Welcome back to Rule of Two Review. It is still E3, and just like last time, let's just jump right into it. So today is day 2 of the show floor for E3. We still have 2 days ahead of us of E3 goodness and brand new games and gameplay reveals and demonstrations and all of these fun things. Of course, for us Nintendo fans, we have all this crazy treehouse madness to pay attention to, which gives us a lot of great in-depth gameplay information about some of the games that we're most excited for. And of course, it's happening across all of E3 for all companies, which as someone who does like to game on all the consoles, I do, of course, enjoy that quite a bit. But Nintendo's the main focus right now, obviously, and the treehouse is kicking, and it's a really exciting thing. And what I wanted to do coming off of Nintendo's spotlight yesterday and how successful I and many people feel it was, of course not everyone, so if you're one of those people, that's fine. I'm only talking about those of us that did love it. I wanted to kind of discuss and compare what Nintendo did and achieved this year compared to prior years. So the real big question is this Nintendo's best E3 showing ever? And it's a big question, and to be fair, it's a little early to talk about that, so it might even be a little bit, just a tiny bit irresponsible for me to be talking about it just the day after their presentation and just a couple of days after the competition had all of their conferences, which for the most part, I've enjoyed pretty much everything everyone has put out this year. So I've actually been enjoying all companies, all consoles, all third parties. I mean, I've seen nothing but games and trailers and gameplay and reveals of things that I'm just completely in love with across the board. So it's all really fresh in our minds. It's really fresh in my mind. And really, it's usually good to take a fair amount of time after things like this to really get perspective, because coming right off of something that you maybe enjoy or even hate, you can be 100% one way or the other. Oh my God, that's the best E3 I've ever seen. Or, oh my God, that's the worst conference ever. But sometimes, you know, once you get a couple of weeks or even a couple of months or even after the following E3, sometimes you need all that time. You suddenly start to realize, you know, in hindsight, it wasn't as bad as I thought, or, you know, when I think about it, it was great at the time, but maybe it's not as good compared to things I've seen since. So that perspective can be really important. That being said, I'm not doing that today because it's E3. It's E3 right now. It's happening. I got a treehouse streaming behind me. I'm still thinking about the Metroid games and Mario Odyssey and Xenoblade and all these great things. So it's like, screw it, man. I just want to have fun with this because it's E3. So I want to discuss a fun and interesting topic, a topic that I find interesting, which is the E3 from Nintendo this year compared to prior years. So if I had to come down on one side or another, is this their best E3 ever? Initially, I want to say not quite. Probably not quite, but there is a case to be made for maybe why it is. When I think of the best E3 ever, specifically for Nintendo, and I've been very vocal about this in the past, and I do have a little bit of bias because I attended E3 this year. It is 2004. I think 2004 was a banner year for Nintendo. It was a banner year for E3. Banner year for the gaming industry and for the hobby, because that was in the real growth period. The early 2000s was a huge growth spurt for the industry and for gamers, people of all ages starting to come in, thanks in part to things like a successful Nintendo E3 that year, as well as the PlayStation 2 being such a massive hit of a console. Like, really, that era, which that was like the 6th gen was going at the time, that was a very key generation and a key couple of years, in my opinion and in my experience, for the gaming hobby to really become the huge mammoth that it is today. And Nintendo's E3 that year was something really special. It was the year before they officially talked about the revolution, the year before Iwata pulled the Wii, the black version of the Wii, when it was still called the Revolution, out of his pocket and blew everyone's mind. I mean, it was just crazy. That was such a big deal. In 2004, however, it was really just all about the games, and it was all about a brand new way to play on a handheld, the Nintendo DS. That was when they showed that off. And again, I attended that year. I wasn't at the press conference, but I did wait in line for 3 hours while they had Nintendo fans coming up to sing the damn Pokemon song. And we waited in line, and we got to see the reveal of the DS, and we got to get our hands on it right away. I have a really cool shirt that I got from that time, too. That's a DS shirt from E3 2004. It's like one of my prized possessions. And so I got to experience that. And there were so many great games at all of E3, and specifically from Nintendo. So I've always held that in very high regard, stating that's Nintendo's best E3. And, of course, I couldn't possibly forget The famous Twilight Princess trailer. Reggie says, "Oh, and we have one last thing for you," and that trailer plays, and people are jumping and screaming. You've seen the videos. They're crying. Miyamoto comes on stage with a freaking Master Sword and Hylian shield, and grown men weeping. It's that famous moment. The best moment in E3 history. Period. Flat out. Will never be usurped by even Nintendo themselves. No company will ever outmatch what that moment really was and what it meant and felt like. And so for all these reasons, it's like 2004 was the best. Resident Evil 4 was there, Metroid Prime 2, Star Fox Assault. I could just keep going on and on. Advance Wars, Twilight Princess again. It was just so crazy. Beautiful Joe, Killer 7. It was a great year for Nintendo and for gaming. And that's why when I think about that, it's like, is this year's as good as that? Initially, I want to say no. But it's tricky because E3 in 2017 and E3 in the late 2000s and the mid 2010s isn't really the same as E3 in the beginning of the millennium, because gaming was different, the internet was different. So I feel like if we look at E3 in the modern era, I'm going to call this the modern era, like 2008 and up, from like 2008 up until today, I might say that yes, this is Nintendo's best E3. Comparing 2004 is almost unfair, because back at that time, I think things could be even more exciting than they are now, arguably, because there was way more mystery, and the internet didn't really feed us information like it does nowadays, and there wasn't social media. We didn't have the internet access in our hands and in our pockets all the time with our cell phones and MacBooks and iPads and stuff. We didn't have that. In fact, it was really hard to find video content for anything on the internet, very hard for finding video for gaming content, and it was very hard to find like something like a live stream of a press conference to watch live as it happened on your computer. That didn't really happen in 2004. You younger guys and girls out there might not know that, but that's true. And I was 24 at the time, so I have a really good memory. I was an adult even then. And it's different. So, like, you know, we didn't know what the DS looked like before Nintendo pulled the curtain back and showed people in person, or until you managed to find a replay video of the press conference a couple of hours or a couple of days after it happened. You didn't just get it right then and there as it was happening. And so that was a really big deal, and it made things that much more effective and surprising. Hell, we didn't even have comments back in that day. I mean, can you imagine a time, I miss these days, when you would go to a website. Nowadays, you go to any website, and there's a little comment section, and we can all type comments, and everyone's sharing their ridiculous, disgusting opinions about everything all over the internet, and everyone's negative and crappy to each other. Social media, Facebook, MySpace, those things, Twitter, they didn't exist. No comments. When that is like the kind of culture at the time, things are just more pleasant, and they're happier, and they're more fun, and things are more surprising and exciting. Anyway, I went off on a little tangent that isn't directly related to Nintendo's E3, but still you get the point, because I think the context of that time matters when I talk about how much I loved 2004. But again, we come to the modern era, what I'm calling 2008 until today. I think that, yes, this is Nintendo's best E3. There are two E3s that jump out in my mind as very solid competition for this one, and it's obviously 2014, just a couple of years ago, where they went into their true digital event format, and they showed us Zelda for the first time, and they revealed Splatoon, and they did all the Robot Chicken stuff, which was really funny. Miyamoto teased Star Fox at the end, which was incredible at the time, and so many other great games. Hyrule Warriors, it's just, I'd have to go through the list, but we know it was great. It was funny. It was entertaining. There was a lot of games. There were surprises. There was a brand new Zelda. I mean, it was so cool. And then the other one for me is also 2010, where they showed off Kirby's Epic Yarn, they showed off Donkey Kong Country Returns, a brand new GoldenEye, Luigi's Mansion on the DS. I think there was probably something Zelda-related there too as well. I don't think it was the reveal for Skyward Sword, or maybe it was the reveal for Skyward Sword. I'd actually even have to double-check. And if so, that means it was an even better E3. So those two in this modern era, I think, were two of Nintendo's strongest E3s. The year before, 2009, was a very terrible E3, but it did have one of my favorite moments, which was the surprise reveal of Other M at the very end. And again, I know Other M isn't considered a great game by many people today. I love it, but most people don't like it. But when it was revealed, and before people played it and knew that they weren't going to like it, it was amazing. That was the coolest look. I mean, go watch that reveal trailer and tell me in 2009, when you didn't know what that game was going to be, that it wasn't one of the coolest, most spine-tinglingly exciting things you'd ever seen. But this year's E3, is Nintendo's best pretty much since 2004. And the argument might exist for better than even that. I'm not going that deep on this video, but I'm going to just call it their best since 2004. And the reason is, you know, there's the obvious reasons. The Metroid reveals, us fanboys and fangirls, obviously, who were like freaking out and crying and jumping around over the Metroid games, 2 Metroid games. Yes, that's a big deal. Super Mario Odyssey looks great. That's a big deal. Their spotlight was pretty quick and concise, and they featured a lot of games, and the Treehouse is going extremely well and giving us new surprises. Yes, these are all the reasons that it is a great E3. But the reason I think it's their best since 2004 isn't just because of Metroid games and just because of Mario Odyssey. It's because they are showing that they're a better Nintendo than they've been for the last 5 years. And that matters a lot, you guys. That carries a lot of weight. I love the Wii U. I loved it while it was happening. I love it still today. I was playing it earlier this morning because I'm playing Metroid Prime again, and I need my Wii disc to be able to play it on my Wii U. So I love the Wii U, and I thought that those were great years for myself as a Nintendo fan, but there's no doubt that Nintendo made huge mistakes, unfortunately, with that console. And they made huge mistakes with their marketing, and they never convinced the gaming public beyond the core Nintendo fan, 14 million fans, to pick up and buy into what the Wii U was. And I think they were almost transitioning from the Wii U within just even that first year, to be fair. When you look at what they have going right now, I think that that's what was happening. And so, as much as I love that console, it was a dark time. It was a dark period for Nintendo, coming off of their most successful console in history that I don't know when they'll ever repeat that. I don't think the Switch will necessarily do it either. I don't think it has to, but I don't think it's going to. So, you know, Nintendo making such a huge dip in success after riding, like, their most profitable thing they've ever done was a big deal, and it was very unfortunate, and it had a lot of people questioning their future, and a lot of people questioning, I mean, even myself as a Nintendo fan, sometimes you start to really wonder, gosh, what's my favorite company really doing? Are they ever gonna be great again? Obviously, I'll always love them, but will they be perceived as great and be successful again? And you do wonder these things, and the industry and both the Nintendo fan and the Nintendo naysayer said, man, are they done? Like, will they ever fix this? And here we are in 2017, where ever since they first revealed the Switch back in October last year, it's been nothing but good stuff. They've shown we understand marketing, we understand commercials, we understand how to get people interested, we understand creating products that are quality and interesting to millions of people, evidenced by what the Switch even is. And then they had an amazing launch. They sold this system like crazy. They've created what some people, maybe even me, are saying could be the best game ever. So their marketing is on point. Their hardware production and their hardware design with the Switch is on point. Their game design is blowing us away with games like Breath of the Wild, and now we see Mario Odyssey and other things. They're doing everything right, and then they come to E3, and it's like, well, they can continue the good things and show us that Nintendo is strong, confident, tough, and ready to kick butt and just be amazing again. Or they could fumble around, maybe drop the ball, not be that exciting, only have a couple of games, present things in a boring fashion, and not really surprise us the way we want to be surprised. They could have done that. We've seen Nintendo do that far more times than we even want to count or admit. But they didn't, you guys. They showed, yeah, we're not done blowing you away. We're not done with surprises. We're not done listening to you. I mean, if we go to the Metroid thing for a minute, because I can't stop talking or thinking about Metroid, what's interesting is this really Metroid having 2 games, one of them being a Prime game, and just the fact that the 3DS game Samus Returns is an amazing side-scrolling adventure. They actually did that. They're giving us 2 fan dream projects. Like, it could have just been a new random kind of Metroid game that would still be incredibly exciting, but it's like, well, how is this going to be? But oh no, they gave us the Prime 4 that fans have been asking for forever, and they gave us the side-scrolling 2D Metroid game that fans have been asking for forever. And they gave us 2 of these games at one time. That is a Nintendo that's listening. That's not a Nintendo that's just doing its own thing. And it shows a whole different mindset, in my opinion. It shows a whole different mindset and approach to making games, to pleasing the fans, and to listening to feedback that I've never seen from Nintendo. I've never seen that. I don't think 5 years ago Nintendo would do something so outright obviously what people have been asking for in mass numbers. I mean, Maybe they're finally really paying attention to forum message boards and to comment threads and to YouTube videos and YouTubers and personalities like myself and a lot of my other fellow brothers and sisters doing this dorky thing on YouTube. Maybe they're actually listening to us, and that's a big deal. That's so incredible. And with E3, they delivered that message. They were like, yeah, we get it. We know what you want. Here's just a bunch of great games. Here's a smooth, fun, entertaining presentation. No weirdness or awkwardness. I mean, a little bit with the Pokemon guys talking because it was just a little bit of slow stuff, but I didn't mind. And even though I don't care about Pokemon, it was huge that they just said the words out loud, a new core Pokemon for the Switch is coming. Like, and you know, they did the things that typically they don't do that we've been, at least myself, have been asking for. Don't be afraid to just put a logo of something you know that's going to be exciting. Don't be afraid to just say something out loud that you know people want to hear. Even if that thing is 2 years down the road, you don't always have to talk about the right here and now. And they did that. They did that so incredibly well. I mean, just the Metroid Prime 4 logo was fine. It was fine. That's all we ever wanted you to do, Nintendo, for years. Don't be afraid to just throw that stuff up there and let the people know what the future might look like for your product, so people will want to buy in. And they get that now. E3 showed us that this year. They have officially. I think the Switch and Breath of the Wild were a huge start. But to me, it didn't officially prove it until E3 Spotlight yesterday that they have pulled themselves out of the hole of the Wii U. They absolutely have done that. I know some people might say the Switch in and of itself was the pulling out of that hole, and that's a fair point to make. I, however, didn't see that because I saw, it's like, you know, this could still fumble a little bit here and there. I never saw the Switch as it was going to become a huge failure. I never saw that happening. But were they going to completely undo the damage from the Wii U era? I didn't quite yet know, even when the Switch came out and was amazing. But now with E3 this year and the lineup for 2017 and the promise of games they did discuss that will come out next year. Heck, even that Kirby game is a 2018 game. Like, that's amazing. Nintendo has done it. And this E3 and the spotlight and the presentation they're giving us right now this year is proving that. So that's it. It feels great to be a Nintendo fan again, like I've said many times. I mean, I've been saying that since even October when they did even first reveal the Switch. It's a great time to be a gamer. It's a great time to be a gaming fan. And a very great time to specifically be a Nintendo fan. And that feels really good to say. You know, we should really bask in the glory of these days that we're living in right now. Because again, go back to 2 years ago and what did it feel like to be a Nintendo fan? It was pretty difficult because the future was very much in question and a lot of people weren't entertained by what Nintendo was doing. But here we are now, and we are in the golden age, a brand new golden age for Nintendo. And this E3 and that spotlight was a great showcase of what Nintendo has planned for us in the future. And it's a lot of fun, man. It's fun. It's fun to just like video games. It's fun to play video games. It's fun to be excited about video games and excited about whatever company you love. Not everyone loves Nintendo like I and a lot of you guys do. Other people might love other companies. And I'm someone who thinks Sony and Microsoft also had great shows and great games this year. I mean, seriously, it's been awesome. So it's just great to be excited about games, man. So talk about Nintendo and the E3 Spotlight. And for anyone old enough to be able to compare prior E3s going back 5, 10, 15 years, you know, to like the early 2000s and that 2004 period, talk about what you think compared to Nintendo's E3 this year and compare it to those previous years. And do you think this is Nintendo's best E3 ever? Remember, we're literally in the hours and days afterwards, so our hype is probably still very high. But try to be objective and see what you think. I'm really curious what people feel and how people come down on. I feel like half the people are going to say, oh yeah, this is the best E3 ever. And half the people are going to be like, no way, it doesn't even compare to this, that, or the other. So that's it for now, guys. I'm gonna sign off. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob over Live to Review. Keep on enjoying E3 and the Treehouse and all the fun things happening. And I will catch you next time on another E3 video.